IBM, helping people to share information around the world, is pleased to have made this program possible. The creative spirit. In this hour, looking for a better place to work. Featuring a company where workers' ideas really count. Jane Curtin with news of the creative past. A look at new light for traditional crafts. A visit with jazz composer Benny Golson. Guest inventor Wile E. Coyote. A commercial break with Steve Allen. A business where workers know all the financial secrets. Wit and Wisdom with James Earl Jones. Fearless executives taking the plunge. And our man in the workplace, Robert Krulwich.
When I joined this firm as a brash young man, well, I said to myself, now, brash young man, don't get any ideas. Well, I stuck to that, and I haven't had one in years.
You play it safe.
I play it the company way. Wherever the company puts me, there I'll stay.
But what is your point of view?
I have no point of view.
Supposing the company thinks.
I think so, too.
Business is a profession or an institution now that is deeply conservative. In England, it's very much run on the hierarchical principles, very much run how military is run. God help you if you put your car where the managing director's car is.
Suppose a man of genius makes suggestions.
Watch that genius get suggested to resign.
It is a system based on fear, control, and mistrust. And if you have a system based on fear, control, and mistrust, you have the contrary, as I see it, to a creative environment.
Finch, I'm making you vice president in charge of advertising.
Vice president?
Easy, JB. I don't want to question your decision. Finch is bright, but he's had no experience.
I like him!
I like him! We like him!
Leadership today is about giving people permission and protection and processes to tap into their creative resources to become their most competitive advantage for an organization.
Whoever the company fires, I will still be here.
You will still be
year after year after fiscal. Never take a risk a year.
It's true. Every company needs, like the man just sang, a company way, a routine that lets people know every morning what they're supposed to do and how they're supposed to do it. But if a company settles too comfortably into its routine, then it can't respond to competitors, it stops listening to customers. So the challenge to any business is to invent a company way that stays flexible. Business increasingly needs workers and managers who are more independent-minded, who can respond quickly and imaginatively to change, who are, in a word, creative. Now, the catch is that creativity requires the corporate culture to encourage much freer and much safer expression of sometimes irritating new ideas. So how do companies go from being places where people are afraid to take risks and don't really trust one another, to places where it's perfectly okay to say, all right, let's do it? Well, in this program, we will see what some pioneers are doing to change the psychology of the workplace.
The creation of creativity in this company is constantly change. It's trying to get my staff to fall in love with change. This creativity also comes with suggestions, that you're constantly open to suggestions, that you don't have a rhetoric that says, okay, you can, we listen to you, and then you do nothing. Creativity comes by breaking the rules, by saying you're in love with the anarchist. I have a playground, which is my company. I have the freedom to experiment in any way I can or want to create alternative and innovative ways of trading.
It's like a gel, but the minute you apply it to the skin, it performs like an oil.
The workplace is going to change. The workplace is saying, I want to work for a company that enhances the human spirit, creates friendships, and it gives me a sort of a sense of being alive, because that's all we want to do, be alive in the workplace. I think it's done it well because it represents the entire look on the way the whole range was set up.
Really shows the global feel then that we're trying to get across.
You've just come back from Africa. Tell me about, we found the word mama toto, the Swahili word for mother and baby. How was it there?
It was fantastic because it is the word mama toto does mean mother-child.
And taking that note... we are 1990, and there has not been one article that I've read that challenges the role of capitalism, that says, sweethearts, there's a better way of doing it. That ennobles the spirit, where a company can be run on a very moral way, make money, but enhance the spirituality of the workplace. Bringing spirituality into the workplace is very much saying, why should my workplace be any different from my home or how I interact with my family or my friends? How we do it in this company, I think, is by running it, making sure the company is run on feminine principles, which the major ethic is care. And every time we set something up, any new product, the major ingredient or consideration has to be, what natural ingredients can we use? Bonus, can we actually use it in third world countries and trade directly, which we're not doing yet? But third, what relevancy has it from past knowledge and wisdom? And how do we use these extraordinary products that people will love and buy, but get that notion of cultural interest, curiosity, breaking bounds, and using these products like, I'm going to buy a Mama Toto, but Mama Toto, what's that? Swahili? Where's that from? Africa? Why has Body Shop done that? The feminine principles are, gut instinct, gut feeling, intuition, and this humanizing of a workforce, which has never been part of any vocabulary in big business at all. We just go back into the communities and sit with women 30 years, 40, 50, 60, 70 years old, with an anthropologist, social anthropologist, and we just ask real simple questions. How did you wash your hair? How did your mother wash your hair? How did your grandmother wash their hair? What did you use?
In Malaysia, traditionally, pregnant mothers are massaged with coconut oil, and it was wonderful. Trogrand Islanders, they actually have special chants that they chant over their coconut oil, and they believe that it has special charms of beauty, so it can be very alluring.
My only role in this company, I think, is to motivate and to challenge and to open up ways by which you can create an experience for feeling alive. And what we're creating is a new paradigm. It's going to take 20 years before what we're doing now becomes mainstream, but by golly, it's going to be mainstream.
Albert Einstein said this: creativity is contagious. Pass it on. Albert Einstein said this: a person who never made a mistake never tried anything new. Albert Einstein said this: most people look at what is, they never see what can be.
In order to have a renaissance in creativity, which, by the way, I think we're on the cusp of a tremendous renaissance in creativity worldwide, there are a number of things that are really needed. One of the first things is that everybody, you, me, everyone, has to be receptive to something new, to new ideas. If you're not receptive to new ideas, they can't come to fruition. There are lots of good ideas, but they get squelched. And I would really caution you about nipping potentially revolutionary ideas because market research said they wouldn't work. There are lots of examples of great products, when the telephone, the radio, personal computer that were thought to have, quote, no market potential. It's a balance. It's not black or white that market research is good or bad, but it must be used judiciously. People have to switch their psychology from one of figuring out the 15 ways why something can't work to the 15 ways that we can make it work. And, for example, my classes in the business school at Stanford, most of the MBA students are tremendously good at shooting down business ideas. They can say, this is wrong, this is wrong, this is why it won't work, these are the 15 reasons why these entrepreneurs will fail. And so what we need to do is to get people out of this mindset of shooting things down to the mindset of saying, that idea has some promise. Let's take that idea and turn it into something that's real. One of the things that's a real challenge when you've got a really creative business like this and lots of new ideas is that you often will not hear that the customers want those ideas because they're so innovative and so new, they don't know they're out there, that they're possible. That's why entrepreneurship is so important in this country. That's why small companies, small parts of organizations, even if they're large or small companies on their own, launching out to do something new because they're not being stifled by a large bureaucracy.
In a related story, we've just received word that Wile E. Coyote, that tireless inventor, that Sisyphus of the sagebrush, Mr. Great Idea himself, has been spotted developing one of his great ideas.
I always compare any idea to a golden wire. Lovely thing. It's pretty gorgeous, you know. You think of gold, guy come trotting in with this idea. Yes. And yes means contribute, help me. I need help to get the strength to survive. And then we come up with what a no looks like. I mean, it's a monolithic, ugly thing. But some people have made entire reputations to become president of networks, become president of motion picture companies by saying no. It's one of the most horrible words in the English language, and when you darken it in, you see how ugly it is. It's made of cement. And this will destroy an idea, because down here you have our little yes trying to survive. And I show what no is like by showing one of those long wire clippers. So anybody can walk up here and go like that. This thing falls down, it's crushed, it's dead before you even has a chance for life.
All 1,800 employees of the Midwest Energy Company in Sioux City, Iowa, are going through a rite of passage called a ropes course, designed to teach people, including bosses, that it's okay to take risks, throw out new ideas, change the routine. You can even look scared in front of your colleagues. The lesson is there's no punishment for taking a leap.
Scared shitless. Most people find a lot of situations in their life where they just aren't willing to take that first step. If they take that first step, then everything else follows. Courage is not about eliminating risk. Courage is about going through the risk, or going through the pain, or going through the embarrassment, or going through the unknown. And that's the stuff of heroes, people who are willing to face up to and go ahead.
Lean forward. There you go. Oh, you almost had it. You almost had it. You're good. You're good, Larry. You were there.
Just can't make that commitment.
So the whole idea is, if you're going to add to the organization, if you're going to grow as a person, you're going to have to get out of that comfort zone. You know, you can change without growing, but you can't grow without changing. So helping people through that sort of trauma and helping them see change as an adventure rather than as a threat is a big part of what this whole program is about.
There you go. There you go. Yes.
So to some extent, we help them look at risks differently. We help them view perception of risks differently so that they're not as fearful. It's not about climbing poles, and it's not about jumping off of zip lines, because that's not what people do with their work. But it is about having the experience of being willing to go beyond your comfort zone. It is about the experience of finding your courage.
You're not afraid to offer your ideas, and the open communication, I mean, that's pretty obvious throughout the whole organization.
I do feel like I'm incorporating it into my work life, but it's like you've untapped, you know, something inside of you that says, you can do this, take the risk to try it, and you overcome your fear.
There you go.
A little higher.
Push up with your leg. Push up.
I don't know where to grab.
Right here. Right here.
Okay.
Right here.
Can you see where she needs to go?
Right here, Trace. Can you get over to here?
Do I need to move over to help her out if I slid over?
There you go. Okay. Right here, Trace. Can you get over to here?
Push up with that leg. Use that leg straight.
Straight up.
Push up.
There you go.
Okay. There you go.
Good job.
All right.
All right.
Tracy! That's it.
Push over here.
Okay.
See, we have 1,800 employees, and what a powerful thing it would be if all 1,800 were creating ideas and providing their input into how best to get results in the company, how best to serve our customers. It's a much more powerful way to run an organization.
I think the important thing is that we're valued employees and we feel valuable, that our opinions mean something. I've never felt that way before.
I feel like they want our voice now. You know, yeah, they listen because they know we are closest to the work that we do.
That's part of that trust again, putting that trust into the lower levels within the organization, and that's where a lot of the things take place. And if you can put that responsibility and the authority down to those lower levels, you get things done.
Becky falling.
Fall, Becky!
Deb falling.
Fall, Deb!
Just having that common bond with your fellow employees, I mean, I think it makes a stronger work environment. I know it's made us a stronger team.
That's
you know,
right.
for application development.
I'm not afraid that he's going to come down on me if I make a mistake, you know, where before I would be and I'd have to do everything perfectly. Now I can go and say, Tom, I don't understand what's going on. Can you help me? And he's there to show me the way.
Trusting yourself and trusting the intentions of others, if not necessarily their competency all the time, becomes pretty critical. And as you trust yourself, you begin to find that you're more than you thought you were.
I think people are a lot more on the feeling level, you know, interested in, I know you better because I saw you go through that, you know, the fears and anxiety of jumping off the zip line or climbing the pole, and I was there for you, and I'm going to still be there for you here because I know you better. And therefore, I feel more comfortable in talking about tough things and caring about how you feel.
It gives you an opportunity to see a different side of a person, you know, that you don't always see, or that person's not willing to let you see. I mean, that's something you don't normally try and express.
The facilitators talked about self-talk, and you don't realize it, but in your mind, you're telling yourself, you'll never make it to the top of that pole. And how many of those people really did and just blew their minds because they did it. They did the whole thing. And don't you find yourself now, when you start getting negative, going, wait a minute, you know, just let's talk this over.
Love is not a word that we often are willing to talk about, much less in the workplace. And yet, increasingly, we're seeing that people are wanting, and perhaps always have been, wanting to know that somebody cares about them, somebody is not just seeing them as a unit or an interchangeable part. And real leadership is about demonstrating that your intention is very much to care for and be supportive of people's growth.
Fear is the vital factor in any creative work. I've never made a picture in my life, drawing or finished an animated cartoon, in which this monster In live action, it's a piece of film. With me, it's a piece of paper. I've never finished one without wondering whether or not I can do another one, whether I can even dare start another one, or whether I could time it. If you don't have that, your anxiety is the handmaiden of creativity. I don't see how else you could say it. I think that anxiety is vital and necessary, but your willingness to face it is what makes an artist. When you put your pencil down here and say, now you've got the guts to do it. Now I know what I can do. At that moment, you're one with the gods, because you realize that you have the tools, you're capable of doing it, and there's no anxiety now. There was anxiety before. Anxiety is the springboard that leads to your ability to join up with the gods that can draw.
Have I died and gone to heaven? No, something even better. We're about to visit a building in Sweden, specially designed to stimulate the creative life of the people who work there. Inator is a company of consultants who have to continually come up with bright new ideas. So the founder built a workplace for idea workers. If creativity involves turning things upside down and inside out, this is a place that keeps the senses alive and guessing.
I think it's stimulating to come to an office or a building where you all the time are on the discovering trip.
Maybe you don't think about the building itself consciously all the time, but really you only have to come to this area to be reminded that this is not an ordinary office. This is special. This is our building. It's very easy to get locked up into a particular way of looking at something, so we spend a lot of time bouncing ideas off each other. And if this was a traditional office, it just wouldn't get done because it's too awkward to walk down a corridor to somebody else's room and sit down. You know, here it's easy.
We built the office for people in this company and not for the other people. Instead of solving all problems, we're creating problems for the people in this building. And by not having a room number, by not having the names on the doors, by not having a post guy walking around with your mail, and you have to find it yourself.
It's done that way deliberately. If you want to find somebody, you have to ask. And that's the idea, is if you have to ask somebody, then you make a contact that you may not have made before.
It's as important what you not are doing in the creative world as what you are doing. So the office is built upon areas where you're not supposed to do anything. They are the creative areas where people meet and they interact.
Nobody minds. I mean, if my boss were to come walking along, she wouldn't react if I was just standing here, apparently doing nothing. That wouldn't bother her. Because she knows that, all right, maybe I'm not doing anything at the moment, but I'm getting inspiration or something, you know. They don't mind. And that's the difference, too. In the previous office I was working, you couldn't really have a cup of coffee without feeling, oh, you know, I'm taking 10 minutes of company's time to have a cup of coffee. Nobody actually said it, but it was in the looks.
People working in the company come here after work time, and there's always time and always space for our people to be here, playing music, singing, having something to eat or whatever. So we believe in having built a a second home for our people. So we have instead of leaving the top floor to the management, we left it to the people.
This is Jane Curtin with news of the creative spirit. This just in, more on our continuing story from Italy of what is being called the Renaissance. The creative spirit has struck once again. Paolo Uccello has just introduced perspective into painting. While many Italians report that they can live without perspective in their paintings, still others believe that Paolo may be onto something. It's seeing things in a new way, commented one citizen, and that's what creativity is all about. Reached at their home, Mrs. Uccello said she's very proud of her husband, but complaining that Paolo is so absorbed in his work that he refuses to come to bed. Being creative is fine, said Mrs. Uccello, but he's up all night, pacing back and forth and muttering, "What a beautiful mistress perspective is." Well, Paolo, congratulations on your discovery. We wish you luck. But please, go to bed. In a related story, students at Stanford University's Graduate School of Business are experimenting with ways of getting past that nasty little inner voice of judgment that keeps us from believing in our ideas.
What we're talking about when we're talking about judgment here is what we've always talked in this class about, which is the VOJ, which is the voice of judgment. And it's the thing that really stops us from recognizing our own creativity. And if you have enough strength of faith in your own creativity, you can begin to knock that voice of judgment down, knock down that voice of blame and criticism that we all really have to a greater or lesser extent going on in our minds. And once you're able to do that, then you can really see the world so that you get into precise observation. I think a very important part of dealing with the world in a problem-solving way, in a creative way, in a rich way, and being yourself in the world really is awareness and paying attention. And so what we ask people to do is just to recognize that this voice of judgment exists, that these obstacles exist. Well, today what we're going to do is allow that observation to give you an experience of your own creativity and also to push aside the voice of judgment, to allow you to still your mind. Because creativity really comes between the thoughts. And if you can still your mind, still the chattering of the voice of judgment, then you can begin to really see. And the first thing we should do, just to really relax and kind of settle the chatter of the mind, is to do 2 or 3 deep breaths. You breathe all the way up through your chest and into your shoulders. So we do an exercise that's a sensing, looking, and listening exercise. And that, paying attention to their body, really shuts down the mind. And when they're in that state, they're really in a heightened awareness state, and they also don't have all this mind chatter going on. Now sense everything. Sense your arms and legs, hands and feet, and just pay attention to all of those. And open your eyes and just look. And listen. Just listen. Now we're going to remain in this silence. I'd like you to go outside and find a natural object that appeals to you and bring it back in. In other words, what I mean is some natural, not man-made object. Anything that comes from nature. And just pay attention. Just get absorbed in what you've picked up outside. And get a piece of paper and just spend a few minutes to write all the uses that you can come up with for that object that you picked up outside. Whatever uses you can come up with for that. Don't worry about the voice of judgment. Don't worry about what anybody will think about it.
to create is really the highest thing in life. And it's also, when you come right down to it, it's the most common thing in life. It's being alive.
He's a mess at this point. Oh boy, look how dejected he is.
What you're thinking of is to create the kind of mood that we're seeing on the video, right?
Yes, yes. First of all, collaboration is a matter of choice. But once the choice is made, it's made because those 2 or 3 or more people who are collaborating believe in one another.
That's the feeling. When I get to the bar, I'll read that one. That's it.
That's funny. That's funny.
There you go. All right, let's try it.
This is a story about a man and his work. The man loved his job and his fellow workers, and he made a pretty good living. But there was one thing wrong. His boss. In fact, his boss made his life so miserable that there was only one thing the man could do. He decided to quit. So first he went to a headhunter to find himself a new job. He was very unhappy because really he wanted to stay where he was. At the peak of his desperation, the man had a creative breakthrough. He went back to the headhunter and gave him his boss's name and resume. The headhunter soon found his boss a great new job, which the boss happily took. Meanwhile, the man remained at his job and was eventually promoted to what had been his boss's position.
Going alone, you're going with other people. And the purpose is to create. And that can be exciting as long as you believe in one another.
You know, whether it's a sport or a business or a religion or whatever, after a while it just deteriorates. And I think you have to have a revolution and throw all the rules out and start over again. I don't get very many creative ideas sitting around pushing papers in an office. I have to get out. I have to go out and surfing or kayaking or climbing or blacksmithing. That's when I get all the creative ideas I'm going to get during the day. Where's the one with the new scene? In work, we try to make products that are non-competitive. I don't want to make the same product as another company. How about making this a flat seam here too? Isn't that going to cut into your skin?
You can't do that because of the way this casing is sewn in. You know, this was the big limiting factor of being able to get a seam seal there. So that's why we're working on this tunnel idea.
I'd rather put my money and energy in having a very strong R&D department, and then we can come out with unique products, and then there's no competition. And run with those products as fast as we can, sell as many as we can, until everybody copies us. And then we just drop the product and go on a completely different direction. Perfect for crouching in the tube. Built-in crouch.
Sitting in the boat. You know, I left my wetsuit at home, so I might just wear this stuff.
Yeah. Let's just go out on a surfboard and we'll go out in kayaks and we can test everything. Great. We're making lifestyle clothes, so we have to live that life for one thing. Everybody that works here, if we're going to be making clothes for these kind of activities, we have to do them ourselves. But I stayed pretty dry. Nothing came in from the cuts or the neck. Well, you know, I don't think we can put a grommet in this stuff to really have it all. Well, we would have to really test it for a long time to make sure, you know. I like to break the rules. That adds the fun back in the business. You know, you throw out all these management concepts and you do it a whole different way than anybody's ever said. Like, for instance, we don't advertise. I mean, that's un-American not to advertise. We spend 1/2 of 1% on sales on advertising. Well, that's unheard of in the fashion business. If we want to encourage creativity, and say in the workplace, you have to encourage people to take risks. That's what it's all about. You want to have climate in a company where people feel comfortable, and if they feel comfortable, then they're willing to open themselves up and throw out crazy ideas and nobody laughs, or everybody laughs, but so what? You should shrug it off.
Work is play. You know, work's kind of what you do. And it doesn't stop at 5 o'clock or 7 o'clock or whenever I end up walking out of the building. I go home, I think about it all night. If I need to, I go out in my garage. I've got my own shop out there with sewing machines and tables and fabrics, and I can do it at home at night if I need to. And I do frequently.
You know, one of the ways we try to make people feel comfortable here so that they can be creative is to get rid of the hassles in their lives. Like, for instance, having a daycare center. Frees up the parents to not have to worry about their kid all day long, and then you can just free up your mind and concentrate on working.
I have a great job, you know, and can be a parent all at the same time and not be stressed out, you know, 24 hours of the day.
Do you like it, Joan?
What, lasagna? I'll leave this here.
I
Love it.
don't.
This is good.
Do you like fish? Me.
How about eating one of your lunch?
Yeah.
Good. Good idea.
I can't tell you how important that is, especially for me because I am a single mom and he depends on me.
Thank you.
No job is without stress, and this one has a little bit of stress to it. And if you're going along and you're sewing and you've hit a really bad spot and you're having problems, and it's lunchtime and you go out and you have lunch with your child and you can come back and you're refreshed and all of a sudden your problem isn't a problem anymore and you just fly right through it. It really helps. It gives you a little boost.
You there.
It changes the whole way that it feels to go to work. In other words, you get people anxious to go to work in the morning because that is a great part of their lives, rather than, oh God, I got to go to work tomorrow. Or the more people can focus on a particular direction that the company wants to go and they want to go themselves, everybody's bought into where we're all going. It becomes a movement rather than a business. And it focuses a company and makes it extremely productive, I think.
There are cultures where creativity has a very different rhythm. In Japan, for example, some of the most creative people spend their lives solving what seems to us to be very little problems, adapting this, refining that, and yet this process of continuous fixes and adjustments produces beautiful and extraordinarily successful products. It's a different way of creating. And where did it come from?
This is a Zen temple in Kyoto, Japan. This particular temple was built around 1500, and the garden here was constructed at the same time. It's a very unusual garden, and it shows certain aspects of the Japanese mentality that relate to the creative process. If you look in the background here, you'll see in the distance some vertical rocks and then a bit of white gravel coming down that look a bit like a waterfall, perhaps. In fact, what this garden is a three-dimensional representation of a very popular form of Chinese landscape painting. But whenever Japan borrowed something from China, it didn't just simply take it in and discard whatever was there originally. It usually was able to develop the borrowed element alongside the indigenous element, and then sometimes combine them in very new and interesting ways. But it's much more complex than that. Even to take something from one culture to another means you have to adapt it to the new circumstances in which it finds itself. And so that's where the adaptation comes in. You can't borrow without adapting. And the adaptation then can be very creative.
Kyoto is one of the best places in Japan to see how the Japanese have preserved tradition even as they've moved into the modern age. The making of stencils using very precise designs and painstaking manual labor is a tradition that's over 1,000 years old. Stencils were used very early to make clothing during the samurai era and to design things like kimonos and the belts that were used with the kimonos. These same design techniques were later applied to the manufacture of handmade paper, and some of the finest Japanese wallpaper continues to be made in this way. When the market for exquisitely detailed handmade paper declined, this company, Kyotek, adapted its techniques to manufacture exquisitely detailed printed circuits for computers. What's interesting about this process and about contemporary Japan in general is this company and many others are not just trying to preserve traditional skills. They don't stop there. They go on and develop new products straight out of those old traditions. The executive director of Kyotek is Mr. Shoji Jike.
そこで、やはり自分たちの技術を守って生きていくためには自らチェンジングしなきゃならん。すなわちサバイバルチェンジングといいますか、そういう生まれ変わりをしなければならない。しかしプリントサーキットにはフィーリングはありません。フィーリングはありませんが、しかしその技術、メカニカルな技術だけはその新しいハイテクにチェンジしていきます。
This is a tea house, the setting for a traditional Japanese tea ceremony. Here the Japanese have taken once again something that was probably quite simple, serving a cup of tea to a friend or a guest, and they've refined it many times over. So now it's transformed into a very high art form. It's almost like a dance. Every movement here is prescribed, and if all goes well, the guest, the host, and the tea master should relax completely into the form. What makes this particular tea room notable is it's located not in a temple, but in the middle of a research complex. On the floor just below is a laboratory where people are working on new products related to tea. Here again, we see the Japanese passion for refinement. And we're beginning to understand that this process of constant innovation is itself another form of creativity. This is the Kawashima Textile Factory in Kyoto. It specializes in hand-weaving techniques used in traditional items of clothing like the large belts that go around the kimonos called the obi. What is going on here may not be that dramatic, but the Japanese are patiently adapting old materials and old procedures until very gradually they discover that they can compete in whole new lines of business. In this case, for instance, the traditional weaving techniques have been adapted to making very large-scale theater curtains and even producing seat covers and upholstery for automobiles. In order to be innovative, the Japanese feel you have to always go back to the basics. And one of the ways they do that is they try to keep the general public as informed as possible about some of the oldest traditions. The Kawashima Company offers classes to anyone interested in the dyeing techniques involved in textile manufacture. In a culture that is 2,000 years old, they know how to take the long view about a lot of things.
One of the images that's used metaphorically in Asian culture for creativity is water. Water, as you know, conforms to whatever circumstances it's in. In other words, water in a river will be rushing along in a river, but if it comes to a rock, it flows around the rock. Or if you take a cup to the edge of the river and dip it in, the water will suddenly and perfectly conform to the cup that you've filled. And by the same token, creativity is actually a deep kind of responsiveness to circumstances. A person, like the water conforming to the cup, a person or a culture perhaps, that is able to, in a deeply responsive way, meet the conditions in which it finds itself, will then be creative.
Say, homemakers, next time you're out shopping, be sure to pick up a six-pack of Creativity. That's right, Creativity. Made by the same company that brought you The Human Race. You'll like Creativity, we guarantee it. After all, where do you think all those great movies and books and all those wonderful inventions came from? That's right. The answer is creativity. You were born with it, but maybe you forgot to use it, so now you're shopping around. Well, sir, you came to the right place. And our special low price right now is a rock bottom, get this, no dollars and no cents. That's right, it's free. And of course, guaranteed for a lifetime. Don't delay. Come in today.
How do you get the people in a company to identify personally with the quality of the product they create? How do you get them to say, I created this. This is my responsibility? Well, there is a company, Scaltech in Sweden, that makes heavy machinery. But everybody in the firm, it seems, is treated literally like an artist, right down to signing their work.
Every human being is a Leonardo da Vinci. The only problem, he don't know it. Their parents didn't know it, and they didn't treat him like Leonardo da Vinci, and therefore he didn't become Leonardo da Vinci. That's my basic theory. Most people are not conscious that the product they do display who they are. The product is a result of the person itself, their thoughts, their ambitions, their needs. We don't have any quality control in this company. We build the whole thing on individual responsibility. On the other hand, we could say that we have one quality controller per person, and he works 24 hours a day for free.
We put on every machine what we call a team sign. where we have the responsible mechanical designer, the responsible electrical designer, the responsible fitter, and that makes a direct line really from the customer to the person who actually made it.
If I make a machine, I often start it up at the customer myself, and I get the feedback straight away.
I think I do better work when I know that I'm responsible, and if I take my responsibility, I know that I get the confidence as a result of it.
If you have fun, it's so much easier, and you do a much better job. You just get so much more energy from this relationship, and you feel if it's fun, you do a much better job for the customer.
If you really like to have cooperation and teamwork, you have to involve the people, not just in a part of it, the whole thing. Every week we have something we call the information cash flow, because I think to have a cash in your hand, that's freedom to make decisions.
Everything about the financial situation is open to everybody. Every Monday morning we show cash flow situation, how many orders we have.
Sen gjorde jag för informationens skull en koll av hur mycket det har kostat egentligen den här startupen. Och jag har summerat ihop vad Lars, Staffan, jag, Ragnar och NDC har kostat, eller hur mycket tid det har gått åt hittills.
We do about 100 million turnover, and we have been up to 25 million cash. And never been a secret. And all the people I know, they say if you tell the people that, they will jump up and ask for a higher salary. Not true. Not true. They are proud of it. And they say after a few months, they say this 25 million dropped down to 12, 10. And they start to understand what business really is.
Sen har vi dessutom ett projekt.
So we know what the machine had cost us, how much money we have gained, and then we have all the other costs like salaries, traveling, all these other things. And then you see in the end the result after tax and so on, after depreciation.
Men lilla magasinet, det är ju så mycket mer drag än vad det har i det stora. Så där ligger vi bara an. Precis. Vi pratade med Håkan förut.
Ja. And my salary has been set by the whole team. Everybody has had an opinion about my salary. And it feels good because everybody knows what my salary is, and I know that I don't have to feel bad about it.
Nobody here knows who will set the salary next year, because we involve everyone in it. And therefore they have to smile in all directions.
I think you have to have a certain degree of security. You have to feel secure, that you can be open, that you're not going to be punished in any way, or that you're going to lose anything.
And you see the business cards, you have no titles. I don't believe in titles, because in the moment you have a title, you put a person in a box. And you make a declaration what the person is. And if we should have a title, it should be Leonardo da Vinci or Unlimited Possibilities or something like that. Confidence is the start of it. Joy is a part of it. And love is the heart of it.
Leadership today is about giving people permission and protection and processes to tap into their creative resources to become their most competitive advantage for an organization.
The workplace is going to change. The workplace is saying, I want to work for a company that enhances the human spirit, creates friendships, and it gives me a sort of sense of being alive, because that's all we want to do, be alive in the workplace.
Yeah, bump, 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 that's it. That's it, bump, bump. Okay, here we go, let's try it.
Creativity is shaking hands with tomorrow. Creativity is singing in your own key. Creativity is digging deeper. Creativity is plugging into the sun.